Okay, so this is an old AP calculus AP question, and it says that f and g are differentiable functions with g of x always positive for all x. And they tell you an initial value that f of 0 is equal to 1. Okay, so now they tell you that this other function, h of x, is a product of f times g. And they tell you that the derivative of h is equal to f of x times g prime of x. So the question is asking, what is f of x equal to? So they want to know what's the actual function of f. So let's see, in order to figure it out, let's look. Well, now they give us h prime of x is this. Now normally, when you're finding the derivative of h, which is a product of f and g, you should be using the product rule. So let's just take the product rule and see what happens. So using the product rule, okay, the product rule is equal to f of x times g prime of x plus g of x times f prime of x. Okay? So they got f of x times g prime of x. So this portion, therefore, they're telling us this must equal 0 over here. So let's write that down. G of x times f prime of x apparently is equal to 0. Okay, so we want to figure out what f of x is. That was the problem. So over here, now how can this equal 0, this expression here? Okay. Now, they tell us g of x, using the information that we have at the beginning, g of x is not 0. G of x is always a positive function, which means the function always is above the x-axis. It's never equal to 0. So this is not 0. That means this product is equal to 0. That means f prime of x must equal 0. So we can figure this part out here. So therefore, f prime of x, that must be equal to 0. Okay? Now, we wanted to figure out f of x is equal to. So now this is the integral of f prime of x. So let's take the integral. Okay, well, the integral of 0 is going to be 0, but it actually could be any constant. Any constant. So if this is a constant function, when you take its derivative, you're going to get 0. So let's just do it formally. So formally, we're going to take the integral of f prime of x with respect to x, okay, and that's equal to the integral of 0 dx. Okay, so okay, it's equal to 0, but you have to add a constant to it. Okay, so you're going to get a constant. Okay, so this is what f of x is equal to. We know it's a constant function, okay, because its derivative is equal to 0. Okay, f of x is equal to a constant. Okay, we know it's k. But we want to see if we can possibly figure out what constant it is. Now, we have an initial value here when x is 0, y is 1. Okay, so that only can happen, so f of 0, that means if you plug in 0 here, this is a constant, it's telling you if you plug in 0 for x, the output is 1. That means that this k must be 1. That's what they're telling us. Okay, so therefore, f of x, so f of 0 equals 1. So that constant is 1, which must mean that f of x, in general, for any value of x, not just 0, is going to equal also 1. That's the only way it can happen. Because if this value was different, let's say this was 2, then f of 0 would be 2, which is not what they're saying here. So that means this must be the function we're looking for. Okay, and if you want to graph this function, okay, so a constant function, its a line, but it's a horizontal line when y equals 1. So over here, let's say y is 1. This is what the graph looks like over here, a horizontal line. Okay, so this is f of x equals 1. Okay, so that's what the graph looks like. And g of x is some positive function. So it's some graph, I don't know, we don't know what it is, but it's some graph that's above the x-axis and something like that. That's never 0. Okay, thank you.